All right, guys, today is the day. Finally, getting around to it, sharing with you my testimony of coming to Jesus Christ. It's really long. It's like a movie. I can make a movie out of my life story. Hopefully one day I will make a lot of money out of it. But anyways, I'm going to read from the laptop. I sent the whole thing to my email. So be patient. I have to scroll and read, almost like a teleprompter. All right, it starts off saying, Holy Spirit Messenger is my ministry channel. As you know, you're here. If this is shared, now you know where to go. Please share this testimony. It is extremely powerful and it can help many people in different situations, including sharing your own testimony can help other people. And the devil hates it, so what better reason to do it? All right, let's begin. One second. Sorry, I had to fix my nose. I have a broken nose because of a bully in middle school who punched me in the nose on the school bus when I stuck up for my mom. So I've been dealing with a busted up nose ever since, and it's very hard to have energy because I'm not sleeping correctly. So if you wonder why I always seem down or depressed, I'm not. It's just lack of energy because, as you can see, it's kind of closed off. I have to like push the bone over. And now you see it's better. So it's a whole thing. I'm getting that fixed now that I have insurance here. But anyways, my name is Michael Lawrence Siorgavanu. That is Romanian and French. That's my heritage, my nationality. I was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck. Now, it was so bad that the nurses had to rush me away from my own parents. They didn't get to hold me right away, and they had to get oxygen to me in order for me to survive. So finally, God willing, through a miracle, I got oxygen and I survived. And here I am today, doing the Lord's work for his kingdom. Amen. All right, so hold on, I have like echoing in my ear. Really annoying. There you go. I grew up in a really small town on the East Coast in Massachusetts, Northampton to be exact. And I have one older sister. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness growing up, and I rebelled against their rules the entire time. I felt they were way too restrictive. They talked only of the Father, but never the Son, Jesus. And in order to truly know the Father, you must know the Son. So they're missing the key factor in their religion. And that's why it is a religion and not a relationship. And that's why their religion doesn't save. And they would forcefully go door to door preaching their gospel and never agreed with their approach. And I never agreed with their approach because it felt forced to me, which is what religion is, and not out of free will, which is what a relationship with Jesus is. I always heard of people trying to avoid Mormons, avoid Jehovah's Witnesses, and hide underneath their tables and act like they're not home, shut off all the lights depending on what time they come by. And that really bothered me, not because of how those people reacted, but because they felt they needed to react in such a way. And that's not a way of Jesus Christ. When Jesus Christ comes, you go swarming to him because you know he's the truth, the way, the life, the Alpha, the Omega, the great I am, the Son of God, Son of Man, all the titles that you know of, the Great Shepherd. And that is because he is the Messiah. So if you feel you have to hide, then good on you, because you're hiding from religion and you're hiding from a cult that's trying to recruit you. And I didn't want to be a part of that cult and recruit people into a church that I didn't even agree with. So they don't even know the gospel themselves if they don't know Jesus. So they're actually pretty hypocritical to go to your door, take up your time when they don't even make it known in advance, like leaving a note in your mailbox or on your door saying, tomorrow I'd like to come by, preach the gospel to you. No, they just show up unannounced and expect you to just open your door to them with open arms and just accept their cult. So every time, there's only 2 times I think that we went door to door. I mean, they go all the time, but I only went 2 times. And I never knocked on someone's door. I stayed at the end of their driveway while whoever I was with, they went to the door, because I didn't agree with that system. I don't agree with that approach. That's not how Jesus would do it. That's how the devil does it, because he's trying to recruit as many people as he can and using his little pawns that are deceived by religion and this cult to recruit these people over. And he's doing it in a forceful way, because that's how he is. He's forceful. And he's also trying to brand faith with a bad taste in your mouth. So that way, all your life, you hate religion, you hate faith, you want nothing to do with God because of the traumatic experience of a cult religion. That's his agenda, to degrade faith. So I never did it, not once. Fast forward to where I left the Kingdom Hall and that religion cult altogether. Man, my ears echoing. It's never done this anytime I've done a video. Many years as a child growing up, I was picked on in middle school and high school. I would cry almost every day after school. I was also bullied on the school bus. My nose became broken because a kid saw my mom working in the garden and called her fat, because she gained weight after having me. I was 10 pounds, 6 ounces. So she gained weight, my dad neglected her, and it was just a whole thing. A divorce happened, affair happened, and then a divorce happened. And it was just a whole thing that was very unfortunate. I would cry almost every day after school. After she had my sister, she went back to being skinny again. So my dad was attracted to her enough to have another kid, which was me. But then after that, I was such a big baby because I'm 6 feet tall. As a grown adult, 37 years old, she had a huge stomach. So to get rid of that, you have to be strict with going to the gym and exercising to lose that weight. And she didn't want to do that, I guess. So my dad just saw her differently, unfortunately. That's not true love. So I defended her and told him not to say that about my mom. Then he punched me in the face and broke my nose. He was a U.S. Marine, which gave me a bad taste about our military. If that's how a Marine treats people, then shame on you. Shame on military. You feel it's okay to bully people in school? To use your title as a Marine to have superior power and authority over others? See, that's the problem with military, is those drill sergeants condition you. They break you down of who God created you to be, and they create a monster out of you for war, for their benefit. To have no emotions, no feelings whatsoever, to go and kill people and think nothing of it, that it's just a job. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. That's people's lives, that's families that you're taking away, just so the government can make money off of oil and other sources, other things that they want and they use you for. Tell them to go to the front line. They won't, because they're cowards. Anyways. Also, on the bus, kids would laugh at me, play keep away with my hat, throw my hat out the window while the bus was moving, etc. A couple of my teachers didn't like me either and made fun of me with the students. My sister back then would push my buttons at home as well, and my mom told me that my cousins were jealous of me because my dad bought me whatever I wanted. So they would bully me also. I would still hang out with them because I didn't want to be alone. I was dealing with so much abuse, both verbally and physically, that I couldn't focus or feel like I could even breathe. Every day I woke up, it felt like, am I going to survive today? Am I going to live for another day? Not live physically, but live mentally. Am I going to be able to endure through all this that comes at me each and every day? From both at school, where I'm at all of my life, half of my life, and then at home, where I'm at the other half of my life. I had no peace. I had no safe zone. And that safe zone became basketball. Basketball for me is what gave me that peace, what gave me that therapy that I needed, that escape from the world. And when I'm playing, it's like I'm on a different land. I'm in a different world, in a different mindset. And there's so much peace and joy and happiness that I can't even explain to you. But other ballers, they understand. Hoopers, whatever you want to call yourself. I never felt safe or peace. I never told my parents or anyone about any of the bullying either. See, this is what happens when you have parents that don't care enough to ask you about your day. Not in a way that it's forceful, but in a way that it's welcoming. Like, hey, if you want to tell me about your day, the option is here. I'm always here for you. Open ears, shoulder to cry on, whatever you need. Not forcefully like, how's your day? How's your day? What'd you do for school? People don't want to talk about that. Just like work, they get home from work. Last thing they want to talk about is work. They don't want to relive where they just were the minute they got away from it. So I get it. But if there's troubling situations at work, then give them that opportunity to share that information with you. Troubling situations at school, give them that opportunity. But don't be forceful, because that just teaches a child to keep to themselves and to not want to go to you or anyone else. And then they bottle it up and it's just a whole nightmare. I didn't feel I could trust anyone. I felt like it was always me against the world, so I dealt with it on my own. Big mistake, because that isolation slowly built up into depression and eventually attempts of suicide. One time playing ice hockey as kids with my cousin. One second, so conveniently, the other page didn't load. All right, fixed it. One time playing ice hockey as kids with my cousin Reed at a lake nearby his house, I ended up falling through the ice up to my chest. It was literally like up to here. And I had a Chicago Bulls warm-up uniform on, like the warm-up jacket and pants. That's all I had. Thankfully, he was there to pull me out. This was the first time I almost died, because I tried to pull myself out and the ice just kept breaking around me. So thankfully he was able to find solid ice that he could just pull me out. We were just kids. My cousin and I, the way that I was raised and lived with him growing up, reminds me of the movie The Good Son. I don't recommend watching that movie. It's a very bad movie with Macaulay Culkin and I forget the other actor's name. But I was more of that good son, and he was more of that evil son. But it wasn't son, obviously, it's my cousin. So that's just how he was raised. A lot of traumatic stuff happened to him. His mother claimed to be a good witch, so he had that generational curse over him. It was just a whole thing. So unfortunately for that cousin of mine, he was a pretty evil, wicked person. And I hung out with him because I had no one else to hang out with, and he's family, and I didn't want to be alone. And I was that better person. Not to say I'm above him, but I didn't allow myself into bad influences willingly like he did. Thankfully, he was there to pull me out. This was the first time I almost died. Praise God that his hand saved me. Years later, I ended up saving his life from falling off a cliff at this water tunnel place by pulling him up. All glory to God. So there were these tunnels. I forget where it was. And they're like little tunnels underground that you have to like go in, and it's filled with water. So if you get stuck, you could die. So you won't get stuck because they're huge, like massive tunnel to go through. So you're going in one area, it's like a hole in the ground of water. You just go in and you go up and under and you come out somewhere else. So they made it not long enough that you can't hold your breath and you'll die. But if someone for some reason stops midway and they don't have a good, chance of holding their breath, yeah, they could die. There's been deaths there. But that wasn't the case with us. This was the case of him being a daredevil that he is, and going to the very top where there's like this cliff, and he wanted to jump off into the water. into the open water. And he slipped because of that green algae. So he slipped on it and he fell back, almost like the scene from the movie Lion King with Scar and Simba. Or no, Scar and Mufasa. Is that what it is? Yeah, I think that's what it is. And instead of me clawing my claws into the person's hand, I pulled his hand and pulled him out and pulled him up from off the cliff. But he was literally like hanging off as a kid, and I was just a kid. But we both had the courage, the strength, the drive to just act instead of panic. And what do? Okay, I pull him up. And I had the strength, all glory to God, to do that. Okay. Fast forward, I ended up failing my classes and I was kept back a grade. I don't think school should be allowed to do that. That's really traumatic to a child. The fact that I had to stay back a grade. I was enjoying school, when I was with who I was supposed to be, my age group. And I got to know these people and I expected to see them the next year. And I expected to see myself progress and move forward. But when they held me back, it's like I had to repeat everything all over again with different classmates that were younger than me. It was embarrassing. It was like, to me, unprofessional as all heck. Like, I don't think that's fair that they could do that to a kid. But that's what happened to me. I was kept back because I would stay up all hours of the night and only get like 3 hours of sleep. And then I'd go to school the next day, dead tired, having no energy, can't even think. My brain is just completely shut off. So I couldn't focus. I became a class clown. And I ended up not being able to pay attention, not being able to process information, failing here, failing there, not being able to see the board because I'm too far away. Then I had to get glasses, then I had to get contacts. It's a whole thing. So I ended up going to special education class to help, so that way like I could learn better. And it's all a complete joke. School is a joke in general. It's children boot camp. It's a way to take you away from your parents and to train you up through the government and their agenda for children, to train them up as little puppet slaves of their world, to be working slaves and get used to waking up early and leaving in the afternoon. Sounds familiar, huh? 9 to 5. Yeah, exactly. So instead of it being actually 9 to 5, you're waking up at like 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning actually, and then getting out at like 1:12 in the afternoon, depending on where you are. I think China is totally different. In other countries it's different, but in the US, where I'm from, that's what it was like. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And not only that, they don't want to just bother you through your life as you wake up. They want to bother you when you leave school and give you homework and have the audacity to do that, because you must learn this material so well that your brain is conditioned and you're dumbed down by the government. It's garbage we don't even use in the real world. So that's how you know it's a joke. Anyways, moving forward, and it's illegal to skip school. So your parents can go to jail if they keep you from going to school. And if it was a choice, then you wouldn't have to deal with that. It's not a choice, it's forced, because it's for the government's benefit. Those greedy cowards. Ugh. Make me want to vomit. Repeating the same grade over, man, did I hate that. That was traumatic to me, and now I have a problem with repetition because of it. Because I had to take the same classes, go to the same school. Obviously, I would have went to the same school if I graduated into another grade, excelled, whatever, to another grade, advanced. And I also had a neighbor that was my age, that I was at the same grade with him, and then he advanced and I didn't. I stayed back. So it was very traumatic for me. On top of that, my mom forced me to go to the school that my sister went to. I wanted to go to a high school, play basketball, and my mom forced me to go to Smith Vocational, which is a trade school, because my sister was all A student and all the teachers loved her because she knows how to kiss up to people. And she can be a good person too. I'm not putting her down. She's a good person, but she definitely knows how to kiss up, because she used to always bully me and then kiss up to my parents when they would ground her, and then she'd get out of the groundation, and I'm like, whatever. But anyways, yeah, so I was forced to go to Smith Voc, and I didn't want to. I did end up playing basketball. I made varsity as a freshman, but I didn't do well. I was really shy with like the court appearance of a real game compared to park appearance of a park game. It's just park game, you have more freedom to do as you want, play as you do. Real game, you have a coach, you have plays, you have ref, you have calls. It's too much. So it was too much for me to take on at such a young age. Wasn't used to it. I didn't do well. But outside of basketball, I rebelled against that school. Like I was their worst nightmare. I got suspended. And I made sure to, because I wanted to send the message to my mom, I don't want to be here. And when she finally got that message, the next year I got to go to where I wanted to be. And that didn't help out much, because then I got bullied there. And I had a chance to play for JV for Northampton Blue Devils. Ugh. And I didn't want to. I was like, I made varsity as a freshman here. I'm not playing JV. So I declined. Even though I tried out for varsity and they gave me the JV spot, I declined my spot and I didn't play at that school. I stayed there for a year. So I was at Smith Vogue for 1 year as a freshman. Second year was sophomore, and half of that year I left. So I was only at Northampton for half a year. Then I dropped out, got my GED. So school didn't condition me. I always rebelled against school teaching because I thought what they were teaching were lies, which now as an adult I realize they are lies. I ended up going to 4 different high schools because of the abuse and because I slept around and built a bad reputation as a man. Yeah, I forgot about that. So sophomore year, I went to 3 different high schools. I don't know how I managed to do that in half of a year, but yeah. I went to, I forget the other, East Hampton High, and I also went to, I can't remember the other name, but I was expelled from that school for being a man whore, basically. Not proud of it at all. Yeah, I can't think of the name of that school. Doesn't matter. It's my past. I tried to fill the void of lack of love for my mother at that time through the toxic relationships I got involved in and the fornication I allowed in my life that only left me feeling more empty than before. It's not worth it. The enemy will tell you you can find love in fornication, which is sex outside of marriage. That's the biggest lie from the pit of hell. You find love in marriage, and marriage brings love. Outside of marriage, you're just playing house. You're just messing with people, their emotions. You're using them and abusing them with their body. Each other, using and abusing each other's body. Oh, I think you're hot. I think you're hot too. I want to use you for your body. You're using each other like pieces of meat, and then you just discarded them after you get your fill, after you're full of your meal. It's disgusting. Take it from me. You don't want to do that. It's not going to fill your void of loneliness. That's not going to fill your void of finding a partner to have a relationship with. What fills the void is Jesus Christ, and what fills the void is you working on yourself, being happy with yourself, content with yourself, confident in yourself, loving yourself. Then when you can love yourself, you can love someone else. But if you don't love your own self, how are you going to love someone else? You have no room to love someone else because you don't know what love is. They will love you and you won't even be able to identify it because you don't even love yourself. If you hold no value to yourself and others see the value in you, you're not going to see the value. They can try all day long to show you, but you have to see it within yourself. I could have a business and say, I don't think it's going to do well. I don't think I'm going to succeed. And everybody else around me, family, friends, wife, whoever, can say, oh, you're going to take off. You're going to be one of the greatest businesses and blah, blah, blah. You'll see, you'll have your beach house that you want, this, that. And as long as I don't see it, that vision is not planted in my head as a goal that I'm focused on and something that drives me and motivates me. So people can say it all day long. It's not going to be any benefit for me. It will help to uplift me, motivate me a little bit, but it all starts with me. I'm the root of the problem here. I got to work on me first. So all this does is just make you feel more lonely because you're feeling used. You're wanting to use sex, fornication, to get into a relationship. And it doesn't work that way. It's not like an appetizer to dinner. It's just the full course meal of like, I'm not even going to explain it to compare it to food, but what I'm saying is that it doesn't work that way. It's not like, oh, let me sleep with this person and then they're going to want to be with me in a relationship. That's not how relationships work. Relationships are, you get to know someone, you like who they are, you enjoy their company, you like their characteristics that make them who they are and unique to them and that speak and work with you. They don't have to have everything in common. They could be complete opposites, and that attracts to you because you're learning something new from them and they're learning something new from you, and that's how you guys grow. That's a relationship. And a relationship focuses on marriage, not just sleeping around, not just playing house, not just friends with benefits. It's building a family. Or if you don't want kids, or if it's not God's will for you to have kids, then it's just enjoying each other as husband and wife and growing in the Lord. And being a marriage that glorifies God, as Jesus being the head of the husband, and the husband being the head of the wife, and the wife being the head of the kids, and God being the head of Jesus. So that's the focus. When you just sleep around outside of marriage, you're transferring soul ties. Whoever you sleep with, whoever they slept with, that soul tie is transferred to you now. It's a very dark road to go down. Trust me, you don't want to go there. Take it from me. I was also physically abused by my mother after school almost every day throughout my life. I realize now that she was under a lot of stress and trying the best she could and didn't mean it. And that her father beat her with a belt, as she told me later on in my life. So she passed on the abuse to me as her way of getting back at him. I hated my mom for this all my life growing up. I would never see her or talk to her. Then after becoming born again, I had a renewed heart that forgave her, and then we became best friends. She also gave her life to Christ and changed, and was now an amazing person. So, you ever seen the movie, I always forget the name. One second. I Can Only Imagine. Now, that movie is my life. But my mom didn't die of cancer. She died because of ALS, a disease. But my mom was a monster. She was just like his father in the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend go seeing that movie. It's amazing. It's very spiritually uplifting. There's also another movie. Man, I'm losing my mind. I Still Believe. I think that's the name of it. It's another great movie. But I just gave you the answer to the movie. I just gave you, man, I can't even think right now. A spoiler to the movie. Sorry about that if you haven't seen the movie, but I'm trying to explain my life situation comparing to the movie. So, I Still Believe and I Can Only Imagine are the two movies that I recommend going and seeing. I didn't spoil the other movie for you. But yeah, go check those out. My mom was a monster. And that's because she had generational curse over her because of Catholic religion and the abuse of her own father, the verbal abuse of her own mother, and something else that happened with a brother of hers. I'm not going to say it, it's not my place. But all that demonic stuff entered my mom, and she brought that into our house. So there's that. Then, later on in life, I gave my life to Christ. I was living in Utah at the moment, I had to move back home because of my back issue. And you'll hear about that later on in my testimony. And I moved back home and I brought my mom to Christ. I was all about God. God is my life. She saw my ministry. She listened to my videos. The enemy tried to get her away from my videos by having her find something that annoys her with something that I'm doing. And then he'll lead her to Joel Osteen, a wolf in sheep's clothing. And I would tell her, get away from him. He's not of God. And it was a battle. But I was adamant to make sure that she gave her life to Christ if that was her choice. So I preached the gospel to her. We both went out and got a Bible together because I had to get a different Bible. And she gave her life to Christ before she passed. So praise God for that. And I got to see the change in my mom, that the same thing he got to see the change in his father in the movie. So, and we actually got to see that movie together in person in the theater before she passed. So isn't that ironic? One night at the age of 15, a police officer came into our house and I didn't know. And he handcuffed me in my own room for self-defense because I pushed my mom and sister off me while they were attacking me. I was in jail for one night, juvenile jail. So my sister was choosing to move out and she wanted help. And I was dating this girl at the time, so I was on the phone that I felt was an important call to talk to this girlfriend of mine at the time. And I didn't want to stop to do what she wanted to do just because she needed help. So she got mad at me. She complained to my mom. Then my mom got mad at me, told me to get off the phone. Then they started attacking me. And then I ran up the stairs, went into the bathroom. My sister kicks the door down, starts attacking me more. Then I go back downstairs into my room. My sister, I think, tried to grab me or something, or my mom tried to grab me, and I pushed her off me, and she scraped her leg or something against a table. I don't remember. And I guess my sister called the cops, and they showed up and they arrested me. They didn't care to even hear my side of the story. They didn't even ask a side of a story. They just took me to jail. I remember I was supposed to go with my dad to his parents' house that night. And I said, no, it's okay. I'll just stay home. And he went. And had I gone, that wouldn't have happened. But you can't view life like that. It is what it is. It happens the way it's supposed to happen. So what ended up happening is, as I was being put in the cruiser, my dad just gets home. So convenient of time. See, when my dad is away, the devils come out and play. And the devils through my sister and my mom were Jezebel. So they would love to torment me. And my dad was not there to protect me. So I was on my own with God, always there with me. But I didn't know it until later on in life. But anyways, I was put in the cruiser and my dad was like, what's going on? Put my son back in the house. And then the officer was like, I'm sorry, but we have to bring your son down to the jail and blah, blah, blah. And my dad had no say. And they took me. And I was in jail for one night for something I shouldn't have been in jail for. But that's the devil's plan. He uses law enforcement, powers of authority under his control, his manipulation, on the grip of his hand. So it is what it is. The only place I ever felt safe in my life was this tree up the street from my house in my neighborhood that I would climb up to the very top of and just sit and think of my life. I had a beautiful view from above where I could see over everything of God's creation, and it was beautiful and peaceful. I loved that tree so much. It was a really high tree, like higher than a building. And I love to climb, and I love nature. I love God's creation. Trees, mountains, lakes, oceans, water, like anything that has to do with God, birds, animals. And up on this view, you get to see over the whole city. And it's not a city like New York City, like a nice view like that. It's a suburban city, but it was still cool to be able to see above everything and see other trees. And it was just really peaceful. And I was alone finally, with no one tormenting me. Every day felt like a struggle to live and survive for me, but God always was there. I just never knew it. I rebelled in my first high school because I was forced to go to high school my sister went to. I already told you that. When I'm forced, I rebel. I was the class clown. I already told you that. Always interrupting the teacher to seek attention for myself. I would end up in detention, suspension. I've even been expelled from one school. If you haven't already caught on, because I was forced throughout my life on how to live and the abuse I suffered through, it built a demon of anger, hurt, and rebellion inside me. I was a handful that was completely insecure and didn't love myself. Fast forward again. I was the only freshman who made the varsity basketball team for my school, for my high school. And so conveniently, the day that I was supposed to start, which is a big deal, my mom ended up being late, and we ended up being late to the game, and I missed the yearbook photo, and I missed starting. This is how the devil works. He orchestrates stuff that you don't even see happening. He's orchestrating it. You think this is just normal life. This is just what happens. No, he's taking away opportunity. So unfortunately, I never got to experience that. Because I looked up, basketball was my happy place. It was my life. Because I looked up to Michael Jordan and idolized him and wanted to be just like him, which now I realize is wrong. So I would practice at least 4 hours a day. All glory to God and the talents he created within me. The seniors on my team gave me a ride home from the game one night and stopped in the woods off the road to smoke weed. I didn't know what they were doing. I was sitting in the car all by myself, and that's when I was first introduced to it. Then I started smoking with my friends on my own, got mixed with a bad crowd, and always ended up with cops being involved because of my friends and cousin. So what happened here is I idolized Jordan. They put him on a pedestal for you to idolize him, almost as if he's Jesus. And I'm not saying he's Jesus, not at all. Blasphemy. I'm saying that's how they want you to view him, like he's some Messiah. And he's not. He's a human being just like us. He's a sinful human being that needs Jesus Christ. And hopefully he gives his life to Christ. And hopefully he repents of claiming to be Jesus himself. But besides that, I idolized him as a kid. It was around the time that he was well known. I was born in 85. So it was right around that time, Jordan in his prime. And my dad would always take me to the mall. We'd buy a pair of Jordans. Then we'd go to the food court and have a nice meal. And then we'd go home and we'd be complete strangers. And that was our bonding time. Our only bonding time was going to buy something for me. That's not love. That's not how you express love, family, parents. You express love through emotion, through support, through listening, through doing, not through buying things. Buying things, there's no value there. There's value in the purchase, but there's no value in the relationship. It's just a material item that can be replaced. But emotion shown cannot be replaced. Being genuine and thoughtful cannot be replaced. Being giving and protective cannot be replaced. But material things, that can be lost, they can be stolen, they could be replaced. So stop trying to show your love through gifts. That's the mistake my parents made. And that's the mistake many parents make. And I understand they don't know how to show their love and that's their way to express, but you got to find emotion. You got to show your kids how much you love them, what you'll do for them, what you'll sacrifice for them, unconditionally, not with condition. So it was that Jordan thing. I owned Jordan everything: hats, shirts, basketball, wallet, cards, video games, posters, basketball hoop with Jordan on it. Anything that was a material item that was able to be bought of Jordan, I owned, pretty much. Wheaties box. It was that bad. And you know, that's how they put him out there in the world. I want to be like Mike. That song, I want to be like Mike. Yeah, that's conditioning you to idolize him. He was the greatest puppet of the devil. And then after him was Kobe. It's another puppet used by Satan. So you got to understand, there's many puppets in the industry. There's many puppets in the entertainment media category, whatever you want to call it, life, world. So I idolized him so bad that I wrote Michael Jordan on my school papers instead of my own name. And my teachers would call my mom and be like, your son wrote Michael Jordan on his school paper. And while I'm in school, I'd be drawing pictures of Jordan dunking and Chicago Bulls logo and basketball hoop. And I wasn't even paying attention to the garbage that this school was trying to teach me. It was hilarious looking back. My mom kept saying I idolized him so much that she was waiting for me to buy shoe polish and turn myself black. Like that's how much I idolized this guy. So I was living vicariously through a false identity and not even realizing it because I was so young. I had a passion with basketball. He's connected to basketball as the greatest ever. That will never change. That's my opinion. And I believe that's facts. Even above LeBron, above Kobe, he's the greatest ever. So with that being said, he was my mentor, but not physically, just in my mind. He was my motivation. I would watch a Bulls game, then I'd be so motivated to play basketball better. I'd go out on my hoop and shoot around and practice and, have my music playing in the window so I could hear it outside. And I would play for hours on end. And I would just be so happy, like I'm in heaven. And it just felt so amazing. I mean, I can't say what heaven is like. I don't know, but I could imagine it's similar. There was no worries in the world. There was no negativity, negative thoughts. There was no anger, hatred, nothing. It was just peace, light feeling, joy, happiness. I just felt above the world. And that was my therapy away from my life. So there's that situation. Then there was a situation with the weed. I was the only freshman with seniors, and I wasn't driving at the moment, so I needed a ride. So they gave me a ride home, and they stopped in this deserted woods area, went deep into the woods, and they started smoking in front of the car, and they have the headlights on, and I'm like, well, what are they doing? So my curiosity is like, what are you guys doing? Oh, come try. And I'm like, try what? And they wouldn't tell me because they knew I'd probably be like, nah, I don't want it. But if they don't tell me and I just feel the peer pressure of like, come on, man, try it, I might give in. And I did. And then I became hooked because of the spiritual influence with it. It's a spiritual tie. You're opening a spiritual doorway. So if you're a man of God and you're smoking weed, you might want to question your relationship with God because you're opening doorways to the enemy. You're not closing them and opening your mind to the Word of God. So a lot of people claim, oh, it makes me focus better, this, that. There's other ways. Drugs is not the way. That's just an excuse. That's just justifying. And I don't believe in that. So anyways, I didn't know what they were doing. I was sitting in the car. That's when it was first introduced to me. I heard all that. I was even buying weed on school property. It was so bad of an addiction that I needed to refill every day. So I ended up finding out who sells on school property. And I would give them money, and then they gave me the weed, and I'd go home and smoke it. I didn't get hooked, but I did experiment for a while. Then I got involved with cigarettes due to my stressful life. I used it as my release from stress. I got hooked for a short while as well. Smoked a pack a day of Marlboro Reds, the worst you can have. The worst kind ever. That's why they promoted it in a way of Marlboro Man. It's like, oh, look at this handsome gentleman, tough guy looking man. Don't you want to be and look like him? Cool, smoking a cigarette? And that's their advertisement with that. That's not why I did it, but I'm telling you that's what they do with advertisements. It made the pain go away temporarily, and I felt cool doing it. I use Satan's poisons as an escape from the world, which is Satan's world according to the scriptures. Ironic, isn't it? See, that's what happens is the enemy will create these problems for you, and you think these are just problems created on their own, but it's actually orchestrated by the enemy. And then he has the nerve to say, oh, I know it can heal you. Go and pay for therapy. Go and get these pills. Go and OD with this. Go and get drunk at the bar. Go and smoke cigarettes. Go and get high. Go and do this drug. And he leads you because he's the one that brought you to rock bottom, because of everything he orchestrated in your life to make you stressed out, to have you feel the abuse, to be neglected by your parents. And then he has the audacity to say, I have a fix for you. It's temporarily. It's a temporary fix. You're just covering it up. You're not removing it and getting rid of it for good. And that can only come through Jesus Christ. So he only does this because when you get hooked to these things, you're keeping the doorway open. If you drink every day or every weekend, you're opening that spiritual doorway once again. If you're smoking cigarettes, you're opening a spiritual doorway. They even show you in a commercial where the cigarette that the person's smoking turns into a bully, and then that bully drags that person outside. That's showing you an influence. It's not a joke. It's not made up. It's not ha funny, just your imagination going wild. They're showing you actually what's happening is you're owned by your own cigarettes. They own you. There's an influence that you're opening up through a spiritual doorway. And with marijuana, it's worse. And other drugs, it's worse. So that's why he wants you to get hooked, because then you have this high, this dopamine that you keep needing to feel. And now you're hooked to it. And now just being normal you without the influence is not good anymore. Now you need this high that you're not used to, that you enjoy and love, and it helps you escape your life of hell. And so you get hooked. And so every day you're opening that spiritual doorway to him. That's what he wants. It's like working for the mafia and they give you your dream car. It's like, hey, we'll only give you your dream car if you work for us and you kill people. It's a bait and switch. It's a trade offer. You don't want to deal with that. Sorry, that's my son in the background. It's because he's the one that orchestrates all of this in our life to lead us right to his poisons that have a grip over our life. And that cripples us and may even kill us. That's his initial goal, to get your soul before you give it to God. I started to notice the pattern of getting into trouble, so I stopped hanging out with those people. I thank God that he kept me away from addiction to those things as well. I only tested the waters with those things. I never had that addictive personality. My only addictive personality was with lust, because I was confusing it with love, or I was searching for love through it. And it was with idolization of Michael Jordan. Other than that, I was never addicted to alcohol, never addicted to cigarettes, never addicted to weed. Weed was only drugs that I tried. So thank God for that. So it didn't last long in my life. It was in and out. But for other people that get addicted, it can be there for a long, long time and ruin everything in your path. Fast forward to the age of 16, where my parents divorced due to unfaithfulness and neglect. My dad neglected my mom because of her weight after pregnancy with me, and then she had an affair with a coworker. I had to choose who I was going to live with. The answer was clear. My dad never abused me or yelled at me, not once in my life. So I decided to live with my dad because he always treated me with respect. Anyways, had to take care of something real quick. My dad never abused me or yelled at me, not once in my life. So I decided to live with my dad because he always treated me with respect. Obviously, I'm not going to move in with the person that abused me all my life. My mom actually asked me, do you want to live with me or do you want to live with your dad? Knowing she abused me. I was thrown back by that. Like, seriously? You're asking that question right now? My dad was never really around because he would work nights at a factory. He would make those tubes, like shampoo tubes, things of that sort. So he would go to work at 5 p.m. in the afternoon, come home at 6 a.m. in the morning, sleep throughout the day until like 12 o'clock, wake up, watch TV, and then repeat. My dad and I were like complete strangers, roommates, whatever you want to call it. He didn't know how to show love and affection. We never really talked. And because I was older, I was always about getting out of the house and hanging out with friends and driving here and playing basketball there, and I was just never home. He didn't know how to show love and affection because his parents never showed him. He would always just buy me things instead, like his parents did with him. That's what he told me. He said his parents always bought him stuff. That leads for a very empty and dry relationship. Imagine you being married to someone and you only buy them things. You don't ever have a conversation, a sit down talk. You don't tell them about your day. You don't tell them about your goals, your life goals, your dreams. You don't tell them about your future together. It's just, hey, let's go here, let's buy you something. And then let's go home and do our own thing. That is a very empty, lonely, miserable relationship. And that's what you give to your children when you act that way. My parents repeated the same bad habits that they learned through their parents. I thank God for this because it kept me from having a love for money or material items. And this pattern will now end with me and not enter into my family. So it made me have a hatred toward buying things because my connection with material items is my family's way of showing love to me, and it's not the love I wanted. It's not the love that I needed. It's not the love that I craved. So every time I see a material item, it's like a reminder of the love I never got. And so I hate it. So because of the lack of love and affection from my mother, I would start a pattern of sleeping around trying to fill the void, becoming a player, womanizer, as many would call me. However, a player cheats, and I never cheated, and I never will. I'm a very loyal person. I was always a one-woman kind of guy when it came to dating. So I was the guy that would like test the waters and see who I want to date. Like, oh, I'm going to go on a date with you this week, and then next week I want to go on a date with her. It's, if I'm going on a date with you, you're the one that I'm focused on. You're the one that I'm going to see if we work or if we don't. If we work, then I'm investing all my time into you and our relationship, and I'm sacrificing and making time for us. And if I'm doing that, it's for a better future for us. It's not speed dating. Let me try you out, and yeah, you're cool and all, but then let me see this girl and what she's like. And I couldn't do that. I don't understand how guys can do that. I lost my virginity at the age of 15. The girl I lost it to was a few years older than me, so she didn't feel right dating me after that. She said I was too young. She taught me something new and then left me to be on my own with it. And that's why I became this man whore. It's because after I lost my virginity, I wanted to be in a relationship with that person. That was my focus, but she didn't want to. So she taught me something new and then set me on my way. And now I'm wanting to do that with other women at that point, and that's why I did what I did. She was used by the devil. She taught me something new and then left me to be on my own with it, so I decided to explore it further. I started picking up women to sleep with on dating sites, at the mall, at school, at parties, etc. Single women, married women, which is adultery on their end, which I did not know were married until they told me after. One older woman I slept with told me after that she was married with kids. It broke my heart, and it was a wake-up call for sure. At that point, it was a transition in my life of like, what am I doing? Like, I can't just do this and think there's no consequences with this. So it was bad and got way out of control. And at that point, I was no better than my own mother and what she did. But she knew what she was doing. He knew what she was doing. The difference is I didn't know. I didn't know this woman was married and had a family with kids. If I'd known that, I would have been like, no, absolutely not. I will not with you, and you shouldn't be yourself. Figure out your relationship. Make it right. This is not the way. But she told me after. It was bad and got way out of control. I was committing fornication left and right. It became like my new drug, my new high. I was addicted to the dopamine effect of it because of the conditioning of porn over my life and also a lustful spirit that transfers to you. Which came from this kid on the school bus who mentioned a channel on TV that had static porn. I watched it, recorded it, and got hooked. So the enemy used someone on the school bus to make sure I got the message of a channel that I could look up that's free, that allows you to view porn as a kid. And I had a TV in my room, which you should never do. Parents, kids, don't have TVs, computers in your own room. It's an easy way to seclude yourself off from the world into a room, to isolate yourself, to get depressed, to be a homebody, to not be social, because you're sticking to one room. Whereas a family room, like a kitchen or a living room, there's people around. So you're still being social. You're not isolating yourself. You can't get into depression because you're seeing other people happy and living their life. It's not tunnel vision of just like a cave. So trust me with that. It's the worst thing you can do. I watched it, recorded, and got hooked. Then internet came out. I was a 90s baby. I'm 37 now. And then I really got hooked to porn. Watching it for hours and hours. You could look up anything you want, whenever you want. Free, so convenient. An online pool of options. Portal, if you will. This spiked my addiction even more to sleeping around. Back then, women wanted me and guys wanted to either be my friend or beat me up because I slept with their friend, cousin, or sister. I did not have God in my life at all during these times. I believed in him because of being raised Jehovah's Witness, but never knew him or had a relationship with him. I just had faith. I claimed to be spiritual. I was ashamed so much that I couldn't say I knew Jesus Christ. I couldn't say I was a follower of Christ. I say I have a spiritual relationship. I'm spiritual. And that's a way of knowing that your relationship needs work or you have no relationship at all. Because you wouldn't just say, let me see, how do I put this? You'd rather say, I have a wife, not I'm taken. So it's like more personal, if you will. So I just ended up, fast forward, I got expelled from the 4th high school. So I just ended up dropping out as a sophomore and getting my GED. So I got suspended from the 1st high school, left the 2nd high school to go to the 3rd high school. 3rd high school, I got expelled. 4th high school, I got expelled. I don't remember why I got expelled in the 4th high school, but yeah. So I got expelled from the 4th high school, so I just ended up dropping out as a sophomore and getting my GED. Then things started to take a turn for the worse. I was out of school while people were still in school, so I would sit at home all day and watch TV, movies, and play video or computer games just to kill time. I only lived with my dad, and he was always working, so it gave me all time throughout the day to do what I want. Now, this is going to definitely be a part 2 video, because we're at like an hour now. This might even be a part 3, I don't know. But it's pretty long, I warned you guys. So we're going to go on to part 2, and I'll leave the description, I'll leave part 2 in the description and the comment section below pinned.